Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. In today's video, Creepy Guy Andrew. Creepy guy kissed me on the cheek without consent. Late night drive turned into a chase I'll never forget. Starting off, English is not my first language, so I'm sorry if I make any errors or mistakes. Also, I tried to make the long story short but kind of failed. So, grab yourself a snack, and I hope some of you find this story creepy. This creepy encounter happened about 2 years ago. My boyfriend and I were both studying abroad in Poland, and we were just coming back from a short trip back home. For some reason our usual train route was cancelled, so the conductor told us that we had to get off in a Polish city I've never heard about before, and change trains there. It was cold and started to get kind of dark outside when we arrived. The train station was located in the countryside. It had only 2 tracks, one dead end, and a staircase to an underground. Only my boyfriend and I left the train at that stop, and the train left shortly after. We looked at the train schedule, but we could not see the name of our city. We started to wonder if we had gone off at the wrong station. I don't speak Polish very well, and my boyfriend only knew thank you, hello and goodbye. My boyfriend suggested we go down the staircase and look for someone that could help us. We had 2 heavy suitcases and one of us should stay behind with those. I got this uneasy feeling, but I let him go as I did not want to enter the creepy underground myself. I sat down on a bench. The wind was really cold, so I decided to open my backpack and pull out my beanie. Suddenly I felt it getting darker and I also noticed a change of smell. I pulled out my beanie and as I turned around, I saw that a guy had sneaked up on me and was now standing right in front of me. The guy was very tall and was on the heavier side. My boyfriend is a tall guy, but this man was at least a head taller. I was shocked because he had appeared out of nowhere. He smelled like dirt and he was just standing there, smiling and now waving at me. I smiled back and he came closer. He started asking me something in Polish and pointed at the arrival/departure screen. I could only make out the name of our city in his question. I replied, "City name?" And he said yes in Polish. I, for some goddamn reason, smiled and said in English, "I don't know what you're saying, but we are going to, city name, as well." He smiled bigger and kept talking to me in Polish, both asking questions and just talking. I kept saying, "Sorry English," in both English and Polish, but he just kept on talking. Suddenly he stopped as if he had remembered something. He came a few steps closer and made a finger gesture, motioning me to come closer. I was still sitting on the bench and I leaned in. Suddenly he screamed in my face in pretty good English, "My name is Andrew." I was startled and looked at him completely in shock of what had just happened. He then just smiled, started laughing in this maniacal way, and walked towards the dead end of the station. Not long after that my boyfriend came back. He couldn't find a single soul. I told him what just happened, and I had just finished when creepy guy Andrew returned out of nowhere again. This time he was not smiling. He stopped in front of us and looked me dead in the eye, pointed at my boyfriend and asked something in Polish again. I could only make out the word, brother, so I figured he asked me if it was my brother. I could not remember the word, boyfriend, for the life of me. All I could remember was Zona, which means wife. So, I pointed to my boyfriend and to myself and said Zona. He looked shocked and angry at the same time. Like I had betrayed him. It looked like he was about to scream again. But instead, he burst out in his maniacal laugh again. He took out his phone and pointed at my phone, which was in my hand. It was obvious he wanted my phone number. I was getting beyond anxious and looked at my boyfriend saying in our language, "Please, what do we do? I don't like this. What if I give him a fake number, he calls it and it's not my number?" Then creepy guy Andrew again started to speak English. He told me that he wanted me to call his sister who spoke English. I told him no, and he started to get very persistent, and more aggressive. My boyfriend looked back at creepy guy Andrew, smiled politely, and said 2 of the 3 things he could say in Polish, "Thank you, goodbye." Creepy guy Andrew got mad and left. Finally, a train came. We did not know if it was the right train, but we took our suitcases and hurried onto the train. We lost sight of creepy guy Andrew in the process. When we sat down on the train, I was so happy and relieved. But unfortunately, the happiness got aborted by this familiar maniacal laugh coming from our cart. Creepy guy Andrew had made it onto the train himself. He sat on the opposite side of the cart, laughing and spoke to himself in Polish. I could make out the word Zona, and a common cuss word, so I knew he was talking about me in a not so nice way. During the train ride home, which was only about 20 minutes, he changed seats a few times, but he never came too close. He kept on talking though. I felt uneasy the entire ride. Just waiting for him to do something. Thankfully he did not, and we managed to run off the train in our city and got in an Uber that waited for us. I never saw creepy guy Andrew again. It was enough knowing that he was lurking around in my city. For a bit of backstory, I was only about 15 or 16 when this happened, and my family had moved from Texas to Louisiana about a month before this strange occurrence. I am a very athletic person, but at the time I was quite small, about 5 feet 2 inches and very slim, easy to get if someone wanted to get me, as my mother would say. On this particular day I was out for a run and a man came up to me. He was wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. This was odd to me because it was the middle of summer and it was very hot outside. I remember I was wearing a tank top and shorts. As he walked up to me he gave a really lopsided grin, about half of his teeth were missing or bright yellow, not a pretty sight. He looked to be in his mid-30s and he ran over to me. Mind you, I was running on the side of a road, so he ran across the road just to talk to me. Red flags were going off in my head, but I didn't do anything for some reason. I simply took out my headphones and asked what he wanted or needed. He didn't respond for a minute, so I kept running, putting my headphones back in and turning my music back on. A few minutes later the same guy runs past me and then waits for me to catch up, so now we're running next to each other and I'm trying my best to be polite, but he was making weird remarks. Such as, "Oh, you're so skinny, why don't you come over to my place and we can grab a bite somewhere?" And things like that. I constantly denied his requests and finally he slowed down and grabbed my arm as I walked past. He gave me a kiss on the cheek then ran away like a giddy child. I don't know who this man was to this day, but I was freaked out to go on runs alone for months. When I was 19 I was living with my grandparents in a not so great area on Long Island. I was about 18 when I started to develop, I guess, insomnia or something like it, since I've never actually been diagnosed. The only way I've ever been able to go back to sleep is to smoke a little bit of weed, but my grandparents are super Catholic and made it a point that if I was to do anything like that it would not be in or around their house, so I would often go for late night drives and hit my bowl and then come home to catch whatever sleep I can get. On this particular night I took a different road back to my grandma's, but it's still a road I drive daily on. It was about 3 a.m. give or take, and basically no one was on the road except for me. I was at a red light that had a no turn on red sign, so I patiently waited what was probably only 3 minutes but felt like 10. While waiting a car pulls up next to me in the turning lane to go left, whereas my car was in the right lane with my signal turning right. I never actually looked at the person next to me, but I know for a fact they were staring at me. You just feel it. I made it a point not to look at him or them this way. Maybe they were just stopped and realized I was uncomfortable. However, that is not what happened. Once the light turned green I turned right, and as the person was turning left they decided to make a very wide turn and actually turn right and went right behind me. At this point I started to get scared because I'm a 19-year-old girl with absolutely no protection in my car, and for whatever reason I didn't bring my cell that night. My grandma's house is about probably 3 minutes from where we were, so I just began to speed towards that direction, but the car behind me also sped and kept up with me. At this point I didn't stop for any stop signs and I just kept my foot on the pedal. I finally got to the turn where my grandmother's house is on, but the car followed me as well, and at this point I didn't think it would be smart to stop in front of my grandma's house because then they would know where I lived and could possibly come back. I also didn't really know what I would do if I stopped my car because there would be no way I would have enough time to run inside before something would happen. So I kept driving and speeding, and so did they. At this point I finally started to develop some common sense and I just started to try and forward the 5th precinct, which is about 5 minutes from where I was at this point. I think the person must have realized where I was headed. Because once we went on back to the main road we first had our first encounter, they floored it and went left, which was the original direction they were going to go, and I went straight to the precinct. I sat in the car and just shook and cried for about 10 minutes. I never went in because I didn't really even have a description to give since I was too chicken SHT, so I just decided to go back to my house and smoke in my backyard. Once I told my grandma what happened to me, she felt really guilty even though she really had no reason to, and from that point on she didn't mind if I smoke in the backyard anymore. By the way, frick that guy. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real life creepy encounters around